Pathology of amyloidosis. Amyloidosis is a disorder characterized by extracellular deposits of abnormal misfolded proteins that aggregate to form insoluble fibrils, and it is due to excessive production of proteins that are prone to misfolding and aggregation will be deposited. The mutations that produce proteins that cannot fold properly and tend to aggregate also lead to this disease, and it can also be due to defective or incomplete proteolytic degradation of the extracellular proteins. And this amyloidosis is associated with a number of inherited and inflammatory disorders in which the extracellular deposits of the fibrillar proteins are responsible for tissue damage and functional compromise. The fibrillar deposits bind a wide variety of proteoglycans and glycosaminoglycans, which includes dermatan sulfate, heparan sulfate, and plasma proteins, notably SAP, which means serum amyloid P component. The presence of abundant charged sugar groups in these absorbed proteins give the deposit staining characteristics that were thought to resemble starch, amylose. An amyloid is a name that is firmly entrenched despite the realization that the deposits are unrelated to starch. And regarding the structure of amyloid, the amyloid is composed of non-branching fibrils which are 7.5 to 10 nanometer in diameter, and the amyloid is formed of beta sheet polypeptide chains that are wound together, and the congruent dye binds to these fibrils and produces a red-green dichroism or birefringence, which is commonly used to identify amyloid deposits in tissues. So the stain for amyloid is congruent dye. And regarding the pathogenesis of amyloid deposition, the amyloidosis is fundamentally a disorder of protein misfolding. Amyloid always has the same morphologic appearance. More than 20 different proteins, or at the most 23 different proteins, can aggregate and form fibrils, which gives the appearance of amyloid. And several factors contribute to aggregation of certain proteins and formation of fibrils that deposit in the extracellular tissues. The protein may have a tendency to form aggregates of misfolded forms, but does so only when its concentration reaches abnormally high levels. And this may happen as in individual ages, so it is also called a senile amyloidosis, and its production is increased in chronic inflammatory states. Excretion of the protein is impaired in case of amyloidosis associated with long-term dialysis. Mutation may give rise to a form of protein that has the tendency to fold improperly and form aggregates, and this condition is called as hereditary amyloidosis. Limited proteolysis may generate a protein that forms amyloid fibrils, which is seen in amyloidosis associated with Alzheimer's disease. So the stimulus forms a soluble precursor, that is a misfolded protein, which forms insoluble fibrils. This amyloidosis, mainly it is due to production of abnormal amounts of protein or due to production of normal amounts of mutant protein like transthyretin. So production of abnormal amounts of protein can be unknown or due to chronic inflammation. If unknown, there will be monoclonal B lymphocyte proliferation in plasma cells, and then immunoglobulin light chains. And following limited proteolysis, they form AL protein. In chronic inflammation, there will be macrocyte activation, where interleukin 1 and 6 are secreted by liver cells, and liver cells again secrete SAA protein, which on further limited proteolysis forms EAA protein. And regarding production of normal amounts of mutant protein, after following mutation, transthyretin is produced, which forms ATTR protein. So the most common amyloid protein is AL protein, amyloid light chain protein, which is produced by the plasma cells, and it is made up of complete immunoglobulin light chains, the amino terminal fragments of light chains, or both. And regarding a few words about AL protein, amyloid light chain protein, only a few types of immunoglobulin light chains are prone to forming aggregates, probably because they contain amino acid residues that destabilize the domain structure. AL type is associated with some form of monoclonal B cell proliferation. Non-immunoglobulin protein derived from a larger serum precursor called SAA, serum amyloid associated protein, that is synthesized in liver, is the AL protein. So it is a non-immunoglobulin protein, and it is seen in increased inflammatory states as part of the acute phase response. Increased production of serum amyloid associated protein SAA. If there is increased production of SAA, it is probably not sufficient to generate amyloid deposits. It is believed that SAA is normally degraded to soluble end products by macrophage-derived enzymes. Defective proteolysis may produce misfolded, incompletely degraded SAA, leading to aggregation and deposition as AA fibrils. And regarding A-beta amyloid, this A-beta amyloid is found in cerebral lesions of Alzheimer's disease. A-beta is a 4-kilotyrosine peptide that constitutes the core of cerebral plaques and the amyloid deposits in cerebral blood vessels in this disease. The A-beta protein is derived from a much larger transmembrane glycoprotein called as amyloid precursor protein, APP. And regarding transthyretin, it is a normal serum protein that binds and transports thyroxine and retinol. Mutations in the gene encoding transthyretin result in the production of a protein and its fragments that aggregate and form amyloid deposits, and the resultant diseases are called as familial amyloid polyneuropathies. And the transthyretin is also deposited in the heart of aged individuals called as senile systemic amyloidosis. And regarding beta-2 microglobulin, this beta-2 microglobulin is a component of MHC class 1 molecules and a normal serum protein which has been identified as the amyloid fibril subunit or A-beta-2M in amyloidosis that complicates the course of patients on long-term hemodialysis. So this beta-2 microglobulin is the one that complicates patients on long-term hemodialysis. A-beta-2M fibers are structurally similar to that of normal beta-2M protein, and this beta-2 microglobulin are seen in renal disease, and it is retained in the circulation as it is not efficiently filtered through dialysis membranes. The amyloid deposits in the synovium, joints and tendon sheets. The amyloid deposits derive from diverse precursors such as hormones like procalcitonin and keratin. And regarding classification of amyloidosis, there are two main types of amyloidosis, systemic or generalized and localized. These are the two main types. The other one is hereditary amyloidosis. So, in classification of amyloidosis, combined biochemical and clinical classification is followed. The amyloid may be systemic or generalized, involving several organ systems, or it may be localized when deposits are limited to a single organ such as heart. The systemic or generalized pattern is subclassified to primary amyloidosis when associated with immunocyte dyscrasia like plasma cell disorders, or secondary amyloidosis when it is when it occurs as a complication of an underlying chronic inflammatory or tissue destructive process. Heredity of familial amyloidosis constitutes a separate albeit heterogeneous group with several distinctive patterns of organ involvement. And regarding the types of systemic amyloidosis, there are the systemic amyloidosis is further classified to three types: primary amyloidosis, secondary amyloidosis, and hemodialysis associated amyloidosis. So primary amyloidosis is the immunocyte dyscrasias with amyloidosis, and the associated diseases are multiple myeloma and other monoclonal B cell proliferations, and the major fibril protein is AL. The precursor protein will be immunoglobulin light chain, chiefly gamma type. Next, secondary amyloidosis, which is also called as reactive systemic amyloidosis. The associated disease will be chronic inflammatory conditions, and the major fibril protein will be AA. Precursor protein will be SAA. And regarding hemodialysis associated amyloidosis, the associated disease will be chronic renal failure, and the major fibril protein is A-beta-2M, and the precursor protein is beta-2 microglobulin. So this is about systemic amyloidosis, and the hereditary amyloidosis is again it is of three types: familial Mediterranean fever, familial amyloidotic neuropathies, and senile amyloidosis. So in familial Mediterranean fever, the major fibril protein is AA and the precursor protein is SAA. In familial amyloidotic neuropathies, the major fibril protein is AA and the precursor protein is familial amyloidotic neuropathies, the major fibril protein is ATTR and the precursor protein is transthyretin. In senile amyloidosis, the major fibril protein is ATTR and the precursor protein is transthyretin as usual. And the localized amyloidosis is subclassified to 4 types. So the 4 types of localized amyloidosis are senile cerebral amyloidosis, endocrine amyloidosis, medullary carcinoma of thyroid, islets of Langerhans. So senile cerebral type, the associated disease will be Alzheimer's disease and the major fibril protein will be A beta and the precursor protein will be APP. In endocrine and medullary carcinoma of thyroid, in these 2 types, major fibrin protein will be ACAL, and the precursor protein will be calcitonin. And in islets of Langerhans type, the associated disease will be type 2 diabetes. Major fibril involved will be AIAPP and precursor protein will be islet amyloid peptide. So these are the localized amyloidosis, just an overview. So now in detail, so first amyloidosis is classified to 3 main major types. They are systemic, localized and hereditary. In systemic, there are 3 types: primary amyloidosis, secondary amyloidosis and hemodialysis associated amyloidosis. So first, regarding primary amyloidosis, so it is the immunocyte dyscrasias with amyloidosis is the primary amyloidosis. It is systemic in distribution, AL type, and it is the most common form of amyloidosis. It is amyloidosis which is associated with multiple myeloma, which is a malignant neoplasm of the plasma cells. The malignant B cells characteristically synthesize abnormal amounts of single specific immunoglobulin called as monoclonal gammopathy, and it produces an M protein spike, which M protein means myeloma protein. So in serum electrophoresis, the M protein spike is produced and there will be synthesis of whole immunoglobulin molecules. The gamma or kappa light chains are also synthesized known as Bence-Jones protein. By virtue of the small molecular size of the Bence-Jones proteins, they are also frequently excreted in the urine. And this Bence-Jones protein is present in serum in 70% of the patients with multiple myeloma. Almost all the patients with myeloma who develop amyloidosis have the Bence-Jones proteins in the serum or urine or both. Only 6% to 15% of myeloma patients who have free light chains develop amyloidosis. So it clearly shows that the presence of Bence-Jones proteins, though necessary, is by itself not sufficient to produce amyloidosis. Other variables such as the type of light chain produced and its catabolism contributes to the amyloidotic potential and it influences the deposition of Bence-Jones protein. The great majority of patients with AL amyloid do not have classic multiple myeloma or any other overt B-cell neoplasm. It is classified as primary amyloidosis because their clinical features derive from the effect of amyloid deposition without any associated disease. And in primary amyloidosis, there will be modest increase in the number of plasma cells in the bone marrow, monoclonal immunoglobulins of free light chains which can be found in the serum or urine, and underlying B cell dyscrasia in which production of an abnormal protein occurs rather than production of tumor masses, and this is the predominant manifestation. And the next type is reactive systemic amyloidosis or the secondary amyloidosis. So this reactive systemic amyloidosis is systemic in distribution and they are composed of AA protein, and this category was previously referred to as secondary amyloidosis, but it is because it is secondary to an associated inflammatory condition. This feature common to there are common features. The feature that is common to most cases of reactive systemic amyloidosis is protracted cell injury, which occurs in a spectrum of infectious and non-infectious chronic inflammatory conditions. So these conditions include tuberculosis, bronchiectasis, chronic osteomyelitis, chronic inflammation caused by autoimmune states, rheumatoid arthritis, alkylating spondylitis, and inflammatory bowel disease. Chronic skin infections caused by skin popping of narcotics are also associated with amyloid deposition. The tumors are not derived from immune cells, the two most common tumors being the renal cell carcinoma and Hodgkin's lymphoma. And the next type is the familial or hereditary amyloidosis. It is a rare type found in limited geographical areas, and it is seen in familial Mediterranean fever, and it is an autosomal recessive condition. So in hereditary amyloidosis, there will be febrile disorder characterized by attacks of fever accompanied by inflammation of serous cell surfaces, including the peritoneum, pleura, and synovial membrane. And it is of American, Sephardic, Jewish, and Arabic origins. And this involves widespread, there will be widespread tissue involvement, and accumulating protein will be AA protein. Recurrent bouts of inflammation are seen, which are the main characteristic of this disease. So the gene for familial Mediterranean fever has been cloned, and its product is called as pyrin. The pyrin is responsible for regulating acute inflammation, presumably by inhibiting the function of neutrophils. With a mutation in this gene, the minor traumas unleash a vigorous tissue-damaging inflammatory response. Familial polyneuropathies. This is another type of amyloidosis. So, regarding familial polyneuropathies, it is a group of autosomal dominant familial disorders. The amyloid is predominantly deposited in peripheral and autonomic nerves. These familial amyloidotic polyneuropathies have been described in countries in different parts of the world. For example, in Portugal, Japan, Sweden, and US, the accumulated protein in familial polyneuropathies will be ATTR. And regarding localized amyloidosis, the localized amyloidosis is limited to a single organ or tissue without involvement of any other site in the body. It has grossly detectable nodular masses, or it can be evident only on a microscopic examination. The accumulated protein in localized amyloidosis will be AL protein. Nodular or the tumor-forming deposits of amyloid are most often encountered in lung, larynx, skin, urinary bladder, tongue, and the region above the eye. Infiltrates of lymphocytes and plasma cells in the periphery of these amyloid masses are seen, which represents a localized form of hematocyte-derived amyloid. And regarding the endocrine amyloid type, in endocrine amyloid, microscopic deposits of localized amyloid associated with endocrine tumors like medullary carcinoma of thyroid gland, islet tumors of pancreas, pheochromocytomas, and undifferentiated carcinomas of the stomach are seen. And this endocrine amyloid is also associated with type 2 diabetes mellitus. Here the polypeptide hormones in medullary carcinoma are from unique proteins. Example, islet amyloid polypeptide. And amyloidosis of aging. Regarding the amyloid of aging, senile systemic amyloidosis. Senile systemic amyloidosis is the systemic deposition of amyloid in elderly patients. And senile cardiac amyloidosis is the dominant involvement and related function of the heart is involved, which causes restrictive cardiomyopathy in arrhythmias. The amyloid in this form is composed of normal TTR molecule. In addition, another form predominantly affecting only the heart results from deposition of mutant form of TTR. So 4% of black population in the US is a carrier of the mutant allele. And the cardiomyopathy is seen in both homozygous and heterozygous patients. And regarding the morphology of amyloidosis. In amyloidosis, secondary to chronic inflammatory disorders, kidney, liver, spleen, lymph nodes, adrenals, thyroid, as well as many other tissues are typically affected. Although immunocyte-associated amyloidosis cannot reliably be distinguished from the secondary form by its organ distribution, it more often involves the heart, GIT, respiratory tract, peripheral nerves, skin, and tongue. Whatever the clinical disorder, the amyloidosis may or may not be apparent on microscopic examination. And most often small amounts are not recognized until the surface of the cut organ is painted with iodine and sulfuric acid. This yields mahogany brown staining of the amyloid deposits. When the amyloid accumulates in larger amounts, the organ is frequently enlarged and the tissue appears grey with waxy firm consistency. Histologically, the amyloid deposition is always extracellular and begins between the cells, often closely adjacent to the basement membrane. As the amyloid accumulates, it encroaches on the cells in time, surrounding and destroying them. In the immunocyte-associated form, perivascular and vascular localizations are common. The histologic diagnosis of amyloid is based almost entirely on its staining characteristics. The most commonly used staining technique was the congruent dye, this congruent dye under ordinary light imparts a pink or red color to amyloid deposits. Under polarized light, the congruent dye shows apple green birefringence. This reaction is shared by almost all forms of amyloid, and it is caused by the cross beta plated configuration of the amyloid fibrils. The confirmation of amyloidosis can be obtained by electron microscopy, which reveals amorphous non-oriented thin fibrils. AA, AL, ATTR types of amyloid can also be distinguished by specific immunohistochemical staining. Because the pattern of organ involvement is different in different clinical forms of amyloidosis is variable, each of the major organ involvements is described separately. So first, morphology of kidney in amyloidosis. So regarding morphology of kidney in amyloidosis, the amyloidosis of kidney is the most common and most serious involvement in the disease. Grossly, the kidney may appear unchanged, or it may be abnormally large, pale, grey, or and firm, and in long-standing cases, the kidney may be reduced in size. Microscopically, the amyloid deposits are found principally in the glomeruli, but they are also present in the interstitial peritubular tissue as well as in the walls of blood vessels. The interstitial peritubular deposits are frequently associated with the appearance of amorphous pink cast within the tubular lumens, presumably of a proteinaceous nature. The amyloid deposits may develop in the walls of blood vessels of all sizes, often causing marked vascular narrowing. And regarding the morphology of spleen in amyloidosis. Amyloidosis of the spleen often causes moderate or even marked enlargement from 200 to 800 grams. For obscure reasons, one of the two patterns may develop. The two patterns are sago spleen and Lardécher spleen. So in sago spleen, the deposits may be virtually limited to the splenic follicles, producing tapioca-like granules on gross examination. In Lardécher spleen, the involvement may affect principally the splenic sinuses, and they eventually extend to the splenic pulp, forming large sheet-like deposits. In both the patterns, that is in sago spleen and Lardécher spleen, the spleen is firm in consistency, and the cut surfaces reveal pale grey waxy deposits. Regarding morphology of liver in amyloidosis, the amyloidosis of liver may cause massive enlargement as much as 9,000 grams. In such advanced cases, the liver is extremely pale, greyish and waxy on both external surface as well as in the cut section. Amyloid deposits first appear in the phase of decay, and then they progressively enlarge to encroach on the adjacent hepatic parenchyma and sinusoid. The trapped liver cells undergo compression atrophy and are eventually replaced by sheaths of amyloid. Remarkably, the normal liver function may be preserved even in the setting of severe involvement. And regarding morphology of heart in amyloidosis. Amyloidosis of the heart may occur either as isolated organ involvement or as part of systemic distribution. When accompanied by systemic involvement, it is usually associated with immunocyte dyscrasias. The isolated form or senile amyloidosis is confined to older individuals usually. The deposits may not be evident on gross examination, or they may cause minimal to moderate cardiac enlargement. The most characteristic gross findings in heart amyloidosis are grey, pink, dewdrop-like subendocardial elevations, particularly evident in the atrial chambers. The deposits are typically found throughout the myocardium, beginning between the myocardial fibers and eventually causing their pressure atrophy. And regarding the morphology of other organs in amyloidosis, amyloidosis of other organs is generally encountered in systemic disease. The adrenals, thyroid, pituitary are the most common sites of involvement. In this case also, the amyloid deposition begins in relation to stromal and endothelial cells and progressively encroaches on the parenchymal cells. And surprisingly, a large amount of amyloid may be present in any of these endocrine glands without apparent distribution of function. And regarding amyloidosis of GIT, gastrointestinal tract, the amyloid may be found at all levels, sometimes producing tumorous masses that may be distinguished from neoplasia. It has to be distinguished from neoplasia. Nodular depositions in the tongue may produce macroglossia. On the basis of frequent involvement of GIT in systemic cases, gingival, intestinal and rectal biopsies serve in the diagnosis of suspected cases. Deposition of beta-2 microglobulin amyloid in patients receiving long-term dialysis occurs most commonly in the carpal ligaments of wrist, resulting in compression of median nerve, which is referred to as carpal tunnel syndrome. Clinical correlation of amyloidosis. So the amyloidosis may be an unsuspected finding at autopsy in a patient who has no apparent related clinical manifestation, but it may be responsible for serious clinical dysfunction and even death. All of this depends on the particular tissues or organs affected and the severity of involvement. Non-specific complaints such as weakness, fatigue, weight loss are the most common initial symptoms. Later in the course, amyloidosis tends to manifest in one of the several ways, like by renal disease or by hepatomegaly or splenomegaly or cardiac abnormalities. The renal involvement giving rise to severe proteinuria is seen, and nephrotic syndrome is often the major cause of symptoms in reactive systemic amyloidosis. Progression of the renal disease may lead to renal failure, which is an important cause of death in amyloidosis. The hepatosplenomegaly rarely causes significant clinical dysfunction, but it may be the presenting finding. Cardiac amyloidosis may manifest as conduction disturbances or as restrictive cardiomyopathy. The cardiac arrhythmias are an important cause of death in cardiac amyloidosis. And regarding the tests or diagnosis for amyloidosis, the diagnosis of amyloidosis may be suspected from the clinical signs and symptoms and from some of the findings which have been mentioned. However, some more specific tests have to be done for definitive diagnosis. Biopsy and subsequent congruent staining is the most important tool in the diagnosis of amyloidosis. Generally, the biopsy is taken from the organ suspected to be involved. For example, renal biopsy is useful in the presence of urinary abnormalities. Rectal and gingival biopsy. The specimens from rectal and gingival biopsy contain amyloid in as many as 75% of the cases with generalized amyloidosis. Examination of abdominal fat aspirate stain with Congo red is a simple low-risk method. In suspected cases of AL amyloidosis, serum and urinary protein electrophoresis and immunoelectrophoresis should be performed. Bone marrow aspirates in such cases usually shows plasmacytosis even if skeletal lesions of multiple myeloma are not present. The outlook for patients with generalized amyloidosis is poor, with a mean survival time after diagnosis ranging from 1 to 3 years. In an AA amyloidosis, the prognosis depends to some extent on the control of the underlying condition. The patients with myeloma-associated amyloidosis have a poorer prognosis, although they may respond to cytotoxic drugs used to treat the underlying disorder. The resorption of amyloid after treatment of the associated condition has been reported, but this is a rare occurrence.